Oh, all right, it is officially day 26 of 31 Days of Horror slash 31 Days of Halloween. And today we have a fairly controversial film, to say the least, from 2007. It is Rob Zombie's Halloween. Now, before we get into the bulk of what this film is and kind of analyze its shortcomings, and it does have a few successes, I think it's fair to kind of bring those up as well. I think first you have to talk about horror remakes just in general. Now, when you look at the canon of horror film remakes that have been released, since 1980 onward, I would venture to guess that a good 90 to 95% of them are not just bad and nowhere near as good as the original. They're usually really, really, really bad. I mean, we've seen enough Texas Chainsaw reboots and Hills Have Eyes reboots and Black Christmas and all these other movies that are completely needless. I mean, the only thing they really have going for them is that you basically have a brand name that you can wedge a bunch of crap into. And we've seen that, they remade The Omen in 2006, they remade Evil Dead, they remade everything, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and none of these movies are anywhere near as good as the original for a lot of reasons. But primarily it's because if you're remaking a film and the entire thing that you're trying to do is not make a good movie of your own accord, but try to be on par with the original and imitate it, you just end up getting a crappy movie. You're not actually going to remember a guy who's actually trying to fulfill an artistic vision. You just have a bunch of guys trying to basically emulate their icons. And movies like that never really work out. Now, there are a couple remakes that I think are really good in the genre. And if you take a look at the movies that really excel as horror remakes, stuff like The Fly, David Cronenberg's movie, John Carpenter's The Thing, they all have something in common. And that's the fact that they do not follow the plot of the original film whatsoever. I mean, they have the same general core idea, but everything else is completely different. They take the central idea of the movie, and with horror films it's always very succinct, and then they build their own story around it, something totally different, which kind of keeps in with the spirit of the original film, but at the same time kind of going out and doing something totally different. I bring that up because Halloween is a movie that's guilty of committing the sin of the first thing of trying to really desperately direly imitate the original film, but also I think it kind of stands out on its own accords as its own film. Now, it's not for the entire duration of the film, but just the first part I really, really enjoyed. So here's what I like about the movie. Number one, I love the idea, and really it's two movies. You have the first half where you're doing the build up for Michael Myers, and then you have Michael Myers getting released in the general public, and that's when it just totally falls apart. But the build up I think is very, very well done. Uh, of course, with Rob Zombie, his style, I mean, he really, really has a thing for, white trash stereotypes, which I think is actually kind of racially insensitive because, he's a guy who grew up in Boston, a wealthy suburban family, exploiting, the culture of poor indigenous people of the South. I think it's a little offensive, but that's just me. And so he has these really terrible caricatures of rednecks basically being terrible parents and but slowly but surely you kind of understand why Michael Myers became a sociopath. It's very textbook. It's clear that Rob Zombie is reading stuff about Jeffrey Dahmer and John Wayne Gacy and all these real life serial killers while he was kind of formulating the idea of this Michael Myers. And when he's in school beating up kids, and even the part where he kills his dad, and the part where he's actually in the detention center, and you have Donald Loomis, played by the guy from A Clockwork Orange of all things, actually trying to interact with him, and he's talking back, and he's not just catatonic. That part I enjoyed. I was sitting there watching it going, man, this might actually be a good movie. It's about its reputation. But the thing is, at the halfway point of the movie, that's when they say, okay, let's stop being our own movie and let's try to really, really imitate the 1978 film. And that's when the wheels just really fall off. I don't know, just a lot of stuff. Like the entire final 40 minutes, I think, are completely needless. It's like you have the exposition for Michael Myers, and then you actually have the stuff where he goes out and he's killing the babysitters, including what's her name from part 4 and 5. She actually plays one of the teenagers who gets killed. That's crazy. And so that goes on for about 20 minutes. Then you have the basic ending that you saw in the original, and that's when Rob Zombie says, "All right, I'm gonna add on 30 more minutes," and it just drags on forever with Laurie Strode getting chased around, and she's on the swimming pool, and he's going through the attic. And the thing about that is, it's not so much that it's boring and predictable, is the fact that it's so poorly lit. You can't see anything. I'm sitting there going, okay, I think that's Michael Myers. No, it's not. It's just a piece of wood. And it goes on like that for 30 minutes. And it just completely takes you out of the movie. It's not scary. I mean, Michael Myers isn't going to win. And it's very anticlimactic. That's the one thing a climax should never be, anticlimactic. And this one is very anticlimactic. You don't feel dread. You don't feel terror. It's not scary. It doesn't have the same sort of, visual impact as the original Catch as Catch Can from the original Halloween movie. And all in all, it's just a really, really boring second act. And the third act's terrible. So you got to look at this movie like, okay, well, how do I want to gauge it? Because the first half is surprisingly good. Second half, really, really bad. So how do you gauge the overall film? Well, for at least trying to do something a little bit different, for at least trying to go out on his own and do something, I think the film deserves just a little bit more appreciation than it gets. Slightly more. But then again, once, the killing of the babysitters actually starts, when Laurie Strode actually shows up, that's pretty much time to turn off the movie because it's all downhill from there. So it's not a good movie. In fact, I'm not even going to say it's an average movie. I still think it's a slightly below average film, all things considered. But is it as truly terrible and god awful and as bad as stuff like, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake or the Evil Dead remake? Not really. I mean, it's just slightly below average, whereas those movies are way, 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 way below average. So, hooray for mediocrity. That's the best you can hope for with most of Rob Zombie's movies. Alright, so we're going to keep the late 2000s remake train rolling tomorrow. When we take a look at a somewhat forgotten reboot, remake, sequel, whatever, from 2009, based on one of the most important pioneering genre films of all time. And it sucks. So stick around for that. That's tomorrow. I'll be seeing you then. For the score, I'll give this one, just for Halloween 2002, I'll just give it 2 Ghost Reese's Cups out of 4. So it's average. And tomorrow, crappy movie. You're going to watch that.